On today's installment of the basics, I want to take you to the Star Trek Customizable card game once again and show you two of the weakest affiliations in the game and why you should either not build a deck around them, or if you are going to build a deck with said affiliations, to augment them with other things. So without further ado, let me get right into it and show you why these affiliations are weak. Now, I know there's going to be some instant resistance to this episode because the first of two affiliations I consider to be weak as shit are the Bajorans. Some of you are already screaming at your screens saying, but Jason, there are Bajorans that have great attributes that you can use in the game. And I do have many of them myself, like Vedic Baroil, Kira Nerys, Kai Wynn, Riker Will. There are some great personnel with great attributes. Even if you have some of the promo cards like the Emissary or the Tri-Affiliation or Dual Affiliation cards, yes, you can use them in a deck and they will be decent cards. But the problem with the Bajoran affiliation is most of the personnel that are not command level or do not have the minor command level icon next to them have very little attributes because there are a lot of religious and useless science personnel, which only go so far in the game. And a lot of them have astrophysics or anthropology and little else, unless you, as I mentioned, get into some of the promo cards. The biggest drawback to having a Bajoran deck, and I've mentioned on a previous episode that I used to play with people that made Bajoran decks that were quite extensive, but their ships are terrible. They're weak as shit. The Bajoran Freighter, range of 7, which is not bad, but weapons 3, shields of 6. Not good enough. The Bajoran Raider, weapons 5, shields of 4. Yes, you can boost the range from 4 to higher if you're moving within a region, but it's terrible. And even the Bajoran attack ships and some of they're not good. If your deck is built to score points and you have an opponent that's playing anything that's not Bajoran, he's going to take those ships apart very quickly to get you out of the way so he can just plow down the space line and do missions. Moving right along to the second of two affiliations is the Kazon. Now, out of the Delta Quadrant affiliations, the Kazon are the weakest of the three. That being said, I have made a Kazon deck in the past, but it doesn't get you very far. It gets you dead in a reasonably short period of time. Again, most of their personnel do not have very good attributes. They have a few command level, and if you're lucky enough to have Maj Kula and other command level cards, it's okay. But if you're going to play as Kazon, especially with a Delta Quadrant deck, you need to have Delta Quadrant non-aligned personnel to supplement the deck, as well as some ships to go with it. Like, the Kazon shuttle is not even as good as a Federation shuttle. The Kazon Raider, which was one of the better ships, weapons of 7, shields of 7, that's average. Unless you have that big Kazon battleship and lots of them, you are not going very far with a Kazon deck. I like making different decks with different affiliations other than your standard classic Federation, Klingon, Romulan, or Borg. I have a Cardassian deck. I've also considered making a Vidian deck for the Delta Quadrant and Hirogen because they're better affiliations. But when you can go through the cards in the Star Trek card game and see that the Ferengi have better attributes than these two affiliations, then you know there's something wrong there. I'm not saying to not build a Bajoran deck or a Kazon deck. You're free to do whatever you'd like, but as I've mentioned already earlier in the episode, they are weak affiliations. If you're going to build a deck using either Bajoran or Vidian, you got to put some non-aligned personnel and an extra ship in there, because it's not going to cut it against an opponent that's playing any of the big affiliations, or especially if you're like me, your two main decks are Borg and Federation. We all know what kind of personnel those two affiliations have, as well as ships and enhancements. Need I say more? I don't think so. Anyways, that's all for today. Have a great day, everybody.